Hi guys, obviously I think a lot of people know me by now. My name's Steve Bond. I'm the owner of Bossard. We're now 9 seasons in. I mean, the whole object of the fishery was to have a Forties water. Obviously when we started it, we were kind of the new kid on the block. You know, there's a lot of waters out in France now with massive fish. Not saying we haven't got any massive fish, because we have. I think the whole thing has changed over the 9 years, and it's really been far better than I ever hoped it would be. We're probably looking now 150 different 20 kilo fish, so 44 pounds and above. We have 260s, 270s, Herman at 72.12 last out, Bell's Common at 70.5. So let's talk about the swims. 17 swims, we have 4 doubles and 2 socials. What's the difference between a double and a social? A double is obviously the 2 bivvies are sitting right next to each other, so you can leave your rods out, and if you want to come back to the shower, to the lodge for a shower and a toilet or whatever, you can, and leave your rods out. A social swim are 2 singles, but they're very close together because they're on the bend of the lake, and that is R1 and R2 and the lodge and the boathouse. You can spend as much time as you want in any one swim. So you can be, if like what I'm in here now is the lodge, and to my right is the boathouse. I can spend as much time in the boathouse, or vice versa. My friend can spend as much time in the lodge as he wants, but you can't leave your rods and go for a shower or go to the toilet. So that's the only difference between a social swim and a double swim. The rest of the swims are singles. We have the point, which is right down on the far end of the lake. Great summer swim, late spring, a lot of the fish are going up there. There's lots of snags on the right hand side. Last year done numerous amounts of 50s, but it's kind of known as the Billy No Mate swim because you're far away from everybody else, but I love it too. It's a really nice swim. And then we have R1 and R2. They are social swims, and the reason they're called R1 and R2 because I made a roundabout behind the swim so you can drive round, so they're known as R1 and R2. And then we have the lodge, which is what I'm sitting in. One of my favourite swims, like I said before. The lodge is right behind, showers and toilets, very sociable, people coming backwards and forwards to the lodge for coffees, teas or whatever. And it's one of the swims that you can leave your rods out if you're having something to eat, so that's cool. Then we have the boathouse. That swim is right where the boat is housed if we want to go out to do anything, if it's a snag fish or whatever. It's a decked swim, so you need stage stands or a pod when you fish it. Then we have tight squeeze. Tight squeeze is a double swim, great swim. Tends to do a lot of big fish, but not numbers. You have snags to fish to, you have open water, and a really nice swim too. Then we have Steve's. Now Steve's is a bit of a story behind Steve's. When I acquired the lake, obviously 500 years of trees falling in and everything, so we drained the lake and we put a 16-ton digger in. And as the French guy was going around taking all the dead wood around, the object was, when he couldn't drag it anymore with the bucket, he would dig a big hole in the lake bed, push it all in like matchsticks, put the clay over the top, track it all in, all gone. But when he got to where Steve's is, he decided that he was going to push it all into the fresh green trees, because he's French, unfortunately, and it made an awful mess. And so I spent 3 weeks chainsawing it all out and burning it, and it kind of made a hole in the green trees, so I ended up putting an extra swim in. So if someone goes in tight squeeze, as a double, we close Steve's, so it leaves you a lot more space to fish. You can get to the far margin, into the snags, and it just opens the swim right up. The next swim is 61. 61 is kind of like everyone wants to fish 61, but it's not an easy swim to fish by any means. 61 you have to come around and bait up constantly into the snags. It's a long way round, so you either hire a bike or you bring a bike, or it's a long walk. Obviously you can leave your rods out because your friend's in the swim while you're going around and baiting up, but if you don't put the effort in, it will not fish. Okay, so it's a really demanding swim. If you're going to come here for a holiday, it's not the swim for you to fish. If you're coming here to fish and catch big fish, then it's a great swim to fish, but you've got to put the effort in. Then we move on to Banzai's. Banzai's is the only swim on the whole lake that I've never fished, and the reason probably I've not fished it is because I named it after my best friend Banzai, which was his nickname, who died nearly 12 years ago. If it wasn't for Banzai, I wouldn't be probably carp fishing. He took me carp fishing when I was nearly 12. He was 10 years older than me. He was my brother's friend, without going into loads of, long stories. And we've been fishing ever since. And unfortunately, he died of skin cancer, like I said, nearly 12 years ago. I think about him every day, and that's why I named the swim Banzai. So, little story about it. Banzai never had a 40 common ever, not in France, not in England, but it does more 40 commons than any other swim on the lake. So, but not superstitious, don't believe in life after death, never had an experience. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've never experienced it. But if you make him a milky coffee with 2 sugars in the morning, most of the guys do really well out of it. And I know it's all probably, whatever, but it seems to work. So that's Banzai. Then we move on to Orange Tree. Orange Tree is another swim like Steve's. We close it down when someone goes in middle two, but not everyone wants to fish with their friend. They want to spread themselves out. And fishing Orange Tree, there's a couple of spots that you can fish that you can't get to from middle two. Great little swim. It's the narrowest point on the lake. So if you think about it, everything has to come past you. So when it's going down to the deep water, they're going to come right past Orange Tree, and vice versa. When they're going back up to the top end of the lake, they're always coming past you. So if you set your traps, great swim, really good swim. Then we have middle two. Middle two is the biggest swim on the lake. It's covering probably a third of the water, and that's why it's middle two, middle of the lake. It's not quite in the middle of the lake, but it ended up in M2. So big double swim. Park a camper van in there. There's like lovely parking behind, and again, once again, didn't tell you there now, but there's parking behind all the swims. You just drive into your swim, fall out your car, and nice gravel road all the way round. Middle two, lots of water to cover. Sometimes it can be a bit of a headache because you'll see fish everywhere. You're only fishing with 3 rods, and you feel like you can't cover the whole area all the time. You have snags on the far margin, you have the riverbed, you have lots of nice features out there. There's a couple of hard plateaus, and lots of little lumps and bumps, and a few trees that are cut level with the lake bed. So a really, really good swim. Then we move round to RBs. RBs is a double, but it's a very small double. And sometimes, people feel restricted because, we're only fishing in about 55 metres wide stretch of the lake. When I fish it, I named it after my son Reese, because he helped build it with me, and we fish just 2 rods each, and we do really, really well out of there. And guys, when you're fishing 3 rods, you'll fish 2 really hard, and one will be a pub chuck. You'll just go, that'll do. If you fish 4 rods, 3 will fish really hard, and the 4th rod will be a pub chuck. So sometimes, you've got to think about what you're doing and fish outside the box. It's just a bit of common sense. The good thing about RBs is the next swim round is the nursery. Now the nursery is a really small swim, and it's not a swim that I would want to do a whole week in, but 1 or 2 nights during the course of the week it's really good. So if you're in RBs, obviously it's a double. You can walk round to the nursery, you can bait up, you can watch what the fish are doing, and it looks like a spit that you're fishing to, but it's not. It's actually an island, and the fish do go round it. So they swim through RBs into the nursery, muller around in there, lots of food for them, bloodworm, whatever, and obviously your free offerings when you're putting them out, and they get really comfortable in there because there's no lines. And then you walk round, you have a little nose, see what's going on, and then you can sneakily put a couple of rods out and nick a few fish. So a really good swim if you fish it right. So basically that's all the swims. The whole lake itself, obviously it's 500 years old. So we're probably looking at 4 or 5 inches of silt all over. The main riverbed is very silty. It can be up to about 4 foot of silt, but it's not a problem. Fish come from it, fish come from either side of it, fish come from right inside it. Sometimes they're feeding well into the silt, and you just got to use your watercraft to find out what they're doing. No gravel in the lake that's natural, I would say, but there are a few little gravel bars that probably could have come off the road at some time. So there's probably 3 or 4 gravel patches to fish to. Lots of sunken bars, lots of nice big wood structures in the lake that we can point out to you that's good to fish to, that are not really a problem, you know, for losing fish on. Well guys, that's Bossard. If you think about coming, you can contact us on our website is monsterfrenchcarp.com. Our email address is bossard007 as James at hotmail.com. So bossard007 at hotmail.com. Sandy, my wife, takes care of all the bookings, and just don't leave it too long for the early dates. April, we want 5 Aprils a year, we want 5 Mays a year, we want 5 Septembers a year. You know, they're the months that, you know, you're going to catch some absolutely stomping fish. The rest of the year is really good too, but you know, everyone wants April, May, September, October. And it's getting busy. So don't forget, bossard007 at hotmail.com, or you can ring us on our telephone numbers. It's all on the website. And Facebook is Bossard or Steve Bossard, and you can see what's being caught and the weekly catches and stuff that's coming out. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you at Bossard.